and then some. Running with wise fools in the high noon. Can't take your money with you. Sure as hell can't.
Welcome back to another episode of RunIN Podcasts. This will be episode 4. I'm Chris Walden, and I'm joined here by my co-host,
Brock Hagerman here.
Welcome. So today we're going to do a fun little debate here and kind of discuss the Cole Hocker hype. I think more and more people are hopping on the hype train with Cole Hocker, so we're going to kind of lay out more in depth his season and kind of what we're looking for and what it might take for Cole to enter into some type of GOAT conversation. As it stands right now, I don't think Brock or I are willing to insert him into that conversation, mainly because he's still competing. So kind of what is it going to take this last season from Cole, or 2 seasons, indoor and outdoor, to insert himself into that conversation?
Yeah, and I completely agree, Chris, that, at this point in time, Cole Hocker is in the middle of his senior year of high school. And I feel like it would be disrespectful to the individuals that are actually on the GOAT stage, the Rudy Chappas of the world, the Futsum Zenasalasis, the Austin Mudds, the Ben Veaches. It would be kind of disrespectful to them to put Hocker on their stage at this point in time. But at the same time, all those guys I just named have graduated high school. And their high school resumes have been signed, sealed, and delivered at this point. Whereas Hocker, he still has some history that he can write in his final season of high school eligibility at Cathedral High School.
Yeah, so a lot of those guys, a lot of the accolades that got them into that conversation in the first place did come in that senior track season. So we're leaving the door open for them.
And unfortunately for you, Chris, you had to compete directly with 2 of them throughout most of your high school career. So I only see a few battle scars on you right now. So.
Yeah, you use the word unfortunate. In my mind, I think of myself as fortunate to have competed against such great competitors. I know they made me better, and I'm sure they made the rest of the people we competed against better as well.
Well, that's a good attitude to have. I admire that. I don't think I was as wise as Chris Walden when I was in high school, but it's probably why you were much faster than I was. So moving on to continuing with the Hocker hype, as we call it here. Hocker's resume right now, he only has 1 state title. There's nothing wrong with only 1 state title. He got his state title in cross country, so he's got that blue ring right now. He's coming off of a great junior track season, even though he didn't win a title. He ran 4:08 in the 1600. I believe he ran something around 9:05-ish in a 3200 solo in an in-season invitational at North Central, I believe. And then he came back, and he's got that famous, within the Indiana Runner message boards now, that famous 1,600-meter DMR split at New Balance Nationals, where he split 4:05 with automatic timing splits. So it's not a coach's stopwatch error. It was actually printed on the results, I believe, at 4:05. So kid's got some mild talent right there coming back as a senior.
Anchor legs do get a running start, though, so it's not quite like a standing start at the end. So there's a little giveaway there.
But he was carrying a baton the whole way, so that maybe that left arm got a little tired. But I don't know. But nonetheless, Cole Hocker is coming off of a great junior track season, and obviously an even better senior cross country season, where he's arguably the best cross country runner in the USA right now at the high school ranks. So he's got that 1 state title. So for him to enter the GOAT debate, I think we're talking about more titles.
He's got to get at least one. Probably at least, I think he's got to win 1 or 2.
Or 3.
Yeah, three could happen, and Brock and I have gone back and forth on this, and really for 3 to happen, I think both of us think it's not impossible. It is not impossible, but there's got to be the perfect storm of conditions, and things are going to have to go just right, and I think some of those Cole or Brock we were talking about were weather conditions, the fields he's racing against, who's going to be the spoiler. He could have team implications that he's going into at that state meet. So, running rounds, him staying healthy, what his training look like. There's a lot to dig in here.
Going to the titles. Obviously, to be in the GOAT debate, you have to have titles. Multiple titles, the more the better. You got to think Hocker is a favorite to win the 1600 this year. I mean, he's the top returner. He has a 405 split under his belt, a 408 open PR. There's certainly some talent coming back in the 1600, namely in Jesse Hamlin from Fort Wayne Snyder. Someone could be a spoiler, someone like Hamlin. Someone who we're not talking about could be a spoiler. It's high school track. That's why they run the race. So got to think that he might pick up his first blue ring in the 1600. But I think you also got to talk about Cathedral. Had a great cross-country team this year. They have some great middle distance runners. You got to think they might be talking about the 4x8 over at Cathedral High School as well. So who knows where he fits in there. Possible title run right there, anchoring a 4x8 team. And then talking about more titles, we haven't seen Hocker run too many Open 800s in very competitive fields. I want to say his PR in the Open 800 is, I think he maybe ran around 155-ish last year during a regular season meet. He did not run the 800 during the tournament at all. So a kid who runs 405 in the 1600, and I think he's been clocked at 50 point in an open 400 with a standing start. So he's got solid wheels from his junior year. So you got to think he's going to be competitive in any 800 in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, he's got the wheels. 50 points, pretty fast for a quarter, but kind of just based on what I've seen in cross country. And you can run a 405 as a strength runner. You got to have speed, no matter how you slice it. If you run 405, you got some wheels. But the 800 it's a tough event, and there's a lot of people who are spoilers in there that just come out of nowhere, and they're just really they got the foot speed. And I always see Hocker as a strength runner. So on those 155 and that 50 point, he's kind of full. That's full throttle. He's not really got that massive last 80 from what I can tell. Now he can work on that, and maybe my observations are naive, but
yeah, I think we agree that he's a threat in the 800. Clearly, he might have a different style than a pure breed 400, 800 mid distance type kid. But hey, his name's out there. He's in the mix, and I wouldn't want to race Hocker in 800. I think he's a threat to win any race he steps on the starting line in the state of Indiana in the 800 meters and up. Whether he does it or not, whole different story. Then moving on to the 3200, you got to think that the defending state cross-country champion is always a threat in a 8-lap race on the track, especially when he's balanced between a cross-country champion and 405 1600 meter speed. So
yeah, if you win the national cross-country meet, you got to be in the conversation to win your state 3200 race. We'll see. In terms of the triple, though, we were kind of also talking too. He has no state track titles, and could going for 3 events. Maybe who knows? Maybe we'll just say he runs the relay too. If he's running multiple events, that could shut him short of potentially just getting that one title. So if he has 3 seconds, is he in the GOAT conversation? I think not. So maybe running just a solid double and really just trying to like, do something like German Fernandez type. For those of you who don't know, he was a California state champion, ran 4 flat and 8:34 in the same meet. So we'll see.
Yeah, and if the triple happens to be on the cards, which obviously there's a host of variables and factors that would play into that decision and that venture. But if it was to be on the cards and if it was to be attempted, I would argue that it would be absolutely legendary and epic just to attempt something that's never been attempted before, for one. And I think it would be incredible even if it did not result in 3 wins. If it resulted in 1 win, 2 wins, and a medal, even 1 or 2 wins and a I don't want to say a DNF, but just a finish. I think it would be a valiant effort just to attempt something that's never been attempted. And if it was to be successful with wins and medals, or dare I say 3 victories, I think 3 victories clearly would throw Cole Hocker straight into the GOAT debate conversation with the greatest of all times, regardless of the level of competition for that year. I mean, to do something like that in 1 year would be flat out amazing, something that might not ever be done again.
Yeah, it'd be on that, Austin Mudd level, breaking multiple state records a couple hours apart. Yeah, you just have to insert him if he were able to pull something off like that.
So let's go down this rabbit trail a little bit, okay? Hypothetically, if you are a crazy individual, you're Cole Hocker and you're crazy, or you're Cole Hocker's coach and you're equally crazy, and you decide to chase legendary status, history, something that's never been done before. What are your priorities if you go after the triple? What are your concerns? How do you do it? Strategy-wise, what are you thinking through the tournament, through the actual day of the state meet? Things that you can control. Obviously, there's things that you cannot control.
Yeah, you got to pray for good weather. That's important. But in terms of things you can control, everything's got to be just race to qualify through the sectional and regional meets. That doing 3 events or maybe 4 events, helping the relay get through, you got to just like try and get through those rounds as easy as possible and get ready for the next one. And then when you get to the finals, again, in the earlier races, you want to do as little work as possible. In 2009, they let Drew Shields kind of walk through. I think they came through in about 220 in the 1600, and I think he won in about a 420. So he went 220, 2 flat to win. And that's the kind of ideal situation for Cole, is to have a real easy start to that mile. Same thing in that 800. You hope it gets tactical. People are kind of relying on their kicks, and he's able to make it happen down the straight. And then again in the 3200, you really hope somebody's not just going to kind of lay down a 9 flat pace from the gun. I think Cole could probably approach 9 minutes after running 2 events. But, much faster than that, I think it'll be tough. And, he's a tough runner, and he's obviously shown he knows how to win. But it's really going to be all about getting through those early events and early rounds as easy as possible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a sectional regional round you run to qualify. I think you could run fast in the 800 if you wanted to, if you tempoed the 3200. And the good thing about a guy like Cole Hocker is that tempo pace in the 3200 is probably equal to 920 to 930 pace, which should get through most sectionals and maybe even the regional race. So he would not have to exert much more than tempo pace in a 3200 to qualify. And then moving into the state meet, I agree, good weather. Probably more specifically, not hot weather. Mm-hmm. I think it could be rainy, it could be windy, it could be cool, and that would be okay, as long as it's not extremely hot, because heat will significantly limit your recovery time and ability.
Definitely.
And then the 1600, if he can make that as slow as possible, if he can control the race, really if he can just not run sub 410 in the 1600 and race to win, that just helps his chances in the 800 and 3200. The more he has to run under 410, the further under 410 he has to go to win, that's equal amount of his chances being decreased in the 800 and 3200. I think the 800, tactically slow maybe, but I think the 800 for a guy like Cole, I mean, it's all out. I mean,
with that 800 too, depending on what he does at the regional meet, the 800 is the longest event that splits the final. So like when Austin Mudd did that insane triple, he was actually in the slow heat, so he broke the state record from the slow heat,
which is the first heat, the one that runs first as well.
Correct. So, and I think that was a little bit to his advantage because he could just control the race, run those tangents as tight as possible, and just kind of run his own race like a time trial almost. So I don't know if Cole. I would guess he would want to be in the faster race and just be able to race for win, and hopefully nobody from that slow heat goes off, and he can just kind of win in as slow a time as he possibly can. So that 800 is going to be a little tricky, and so like he has some control over it, but a lot of it's going to be out of his control as well.
Well, and I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here. Obviously, being in the fast heat in the 800 would be beneficial because typically the winner comes from the fast heat. So if you win that one, you're probably the state champion. However, the hardest thing, the most difficult thing about this crazy triple is the recovery time between the 800 and the 3200. The only rest you have is the 200-meter final. And from the finish of the fast heat in the 800 to the start of the 3200 is usually anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes apart. So if you happen to be in the Austin Mudd slow heat, setting a state record or winning out of the slow heat, that actually could buy you an extra 5 minutes of recovery as well for the 3200, which sounds like it's not a lot, we're splitting hairs, but when you're talking about 5 minutes recovery versus 10 minutes recovery, think about an interval workout. Would you rather have a 5-minute rest after an all 800 going into a 3200 meter tempo type effort, or 10 minutes recovery? That 10 minutes could be a huge difference maker there.
Yeah, it could be a huge difference maker, and he could, who knows, maybe he could just kind of drag his feet after he finishes the race and, kind of is the last one to the start line at the 2 mile. So, who knows? Staging area. I know it's tough at that state meet, getting reporting times. There's a lot of logistical concerns, getting your warm-ups and cool-downs. And the start of that 3200 after the 800, how it goes out. Again, there's so many factors.
No doubt, it's absolutely crazy. And then if you can survive the 16 and 8, whether you win them or medal in them, if you survive that and you have to hang on to 9 flat pace in the 3200, which another question would be, who is that individual in the state of Indiana that can run that pace from the front without latching on? Because they're not going to be latching on to Cole Hocker's coattails. They're going to have to be front running that. Who is that individual? Is there an individual out there? I mean, time will tell. We still have a whole 3 months, 4 months before that happens. But yeah, very interesting storyline. I don't know if it'll happen, but
another thing that could kind of propel Cole to really make that happen and do something historic is if he's winning 3 events and he has a couple other teammates, maybe in some field events or sprint or hurdles, that are scoring points. Cathedral could be in the hunt to win the state title as a team, and that having that team title on the line, running for something bigger than yourself, really could help them propel into doing something special.
No doubt. And then in addition to entering the GOAT debate via the number of state championship rings you have and national championship trophies, I think clearly another avenue to enter the GOAT debate is just raw PRs, raw high school times, entering those state record books. Not necessarily state meet record books, because obviously state meet records, while very impressive, that's weather contingent sometimes. A state meet record is definitely something great to have on the resume, but all-time state records or all-time state top 2, top 3 type times. So we're looking at sub 404 in the 1600. the Footsum, Ben Veach, Chris Walden type times in the 3200, 848 to 850 range. I don't see Hocker getting down to sub 150 necessarily in the 800. I think he's more of a 1632 all-time great type debate. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he chases any times. So
Yeah, and maybe just another thing before we go, since we're kind of talking about the triple. Brock told me about some special fellow. There's only one person who has actually ever medaled in all three distance events, not in the same year, but throughout their career. There's only been one person who has medaled in both the 800 and the 3200, as well as the 1600. And Brock, who was that special person?
yeah, I believe it's Deshaun Turner, class of 2007, Warren Central High School. An underrated athlete in the state of Indiana history. Might not be on that GOAT level with the Footsums, the Austin Mudds of the world, the Ben Veaches, or the Rudy Chappas, just because he didn't quite have the times that those individuals had. But the guy knew how to run many different races, from the 800 all the way to 5K cross country, and came out with 2 individual state titles out of high school, some team titles, and as far as I know, based on my research, the only boy in the state of Indiana to have a medal in every single distance race, 800 to cross country.
So yeah, it's interesting. He won the mile in XC, but then also had medals in the 8 and 32, and is the only person to have medals in the 8 and 32, but was also in champion in neither of those events.
Yep. And so incredible range, incredibly versatile athlete. Went on to be a great steeple chaser at Indiana University, sub 4-minute miler in college or professional ranks, and ran professionally for a few years as well. And I believe he's coaching Division I at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio.
And I know he was coaching for a while at Warren Central as well, at his alma mater, so giving back to the place that kind of helped make him.
So yeah, we'll call that the career triple, and we're hyping up Hocker to do the single meet triple here, but that tells you how hard the single meet triple is, if not impossible, because only one guy has done the career triple, and not even winning all 3, but just medaling in all 3. So yeah, we're excited to see what Hocker does. We'll continue the Hocker hype. We just hope he's training well this winter with this bad weather, and we hope he's fit.
Yeah, I wonder if the bad weather lately has maybe been hurting his chances in June, because if he is to do something special, it's going to take every day working his butt off to make it happen in June. He really is not going to be able to have any kind of hiccups. He's not going to be able to suffer too much of any kind of injury or an extended period away from training, and so hopefully.
Or maybe this weather, like many high-profile athletes that are hard workers, maybe it's making them be a little patient. And sometimes that's the medicine that some really, really strong training athletes need. They need that patience, and sometimes Mother Nature makes you be patient. So. Best of luck to Cole, though. Hopefully everything goes well, and we're hoping, for media's sake, that we have some dramatic storylines. So
his success will be all of our success.
I like that. Well, thank you for tuning in to episode 4 of RunIN podcast. Shout out to Mile Split, Indiana, for being our home for the podcast and supplying us with all of our data needs. We highly recommend everyone check out their leaderboards and their performance databases. And until the next episode, I'm Brock Hagerman.
Signing out. This is Chris.
Thank
Chris
you.
Wallen.
And then some